You know that moment when you catch your reflection under bright light and your scalp is staring back at you through your part? I've felt that exact sting more times than I'd like to admit, and I know so many of you have too. Thin hair isn't about how much hair you have. It's about how it's being cut, and almost nobody over 50 is cutting it the right way. Today I'm giving you 5 specific haircuts that visually double your hair's density. No extensions, no gimmicks, just smart cutting that works with what you've got. I researched the worst style and beauty mistakes and the best fixes for women over 50 so you get real results fast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every week. Part 1. The blunt cut that's been working against you. Here's something almost nobody tells women with thin hair. A longer length is quietly working against you every single day. The weight of extra length pulls each strand straight down, flattening whatever natural body you had left. And most women don't realize their healthy long hair is actually the exact thing making it look sparse. I used to think keeping my hair long was preserving it. It took a stylist bluntly telling me otherwise for it to click. The recognition beat here stings a little, so let's sit with it for 1 second. If you've been avoiding a cut because you're scared of losing length, what you're actually doing is trading thickness for inches you don't get to enjoy anyway, because the ends are too limp to hold any shape. That flatness at your crown? That's not genetics being unfair to you. That's just gravity acting on hair that's carrying too much length for its own strength. The fix is a blunt, one-length bob that hits right at the jaw or just below it. This isn't a trendy choice, it's a mechanical one. When you cut hair to one length instead of letting it taper into long layers, every strand ends at roughly the same point, which means the ends stack on top of each other instead of thinning out into wisps. Stacked ends create the illusion of a thicker perimeter, the same way a stack of paper looks solid from the side even though each sheet is thin. Here's exactly what to say in the chair. I want a one-length blunt bob, no layers through the ends, blunt horizontal line at the jaw, and I want you to cut it slightly heavier at the back for stacking. That phrase, blunt horizontal line, no layers through the ends, tells your stylist precisely what you want without them defaulting to soft layers, which is what most stylists reach for automatically with thin hair, and which is exactly the wrong move. There's a woman in my comments, Rosalind, who wrote in after trying this. She'd worn her hair past her shoulders for 30 years, and was terrified a shorter cut would age her. She sent a photo 2 weeks after her appointment and said something that stuck with me. I didn't know my hair could stand up on its own. That's the snapback moment right there. Hair that used to lie flat against her scalp was suddenly holding its own shape without a single product doing the work. What changes practically is how people read you at a glance. Long, thin hair reads as tired, no matter how healthy it actually is, because thinness at the ends signals fragility to the eye. A blunt line at the jaw reads as deliberate, styled, put together. Even on a day you didn't touch a curling iron. That's the part nobody explains. It's not about your hair being more, it's about your hair looking intentional. Marguerite, another woman who wrote in, told me her hairdresser of 15 years pushed back on the blunt cut at first, insisting layers would be softer for her face shape. She held firm, used the exact phrasing above, and walked out with the fullest her hair had looked in a decade. Sometimes the fix isn't complicated. It's just having the right words ready before you sit down. Before, long hair past the shoulders, tapering into wispy, see-through ends that revealed the scalp underneath. After, a blunt jaw-length bob with a stacked back section, ends that appear thick and deliberate rather than thinning out. The difference in a single photograph is dramatic, and it costs nothing beyond a haircut you were probably overdue for anyway. But here's what surprised me most doing the research for this video. The second haircut on this list works almost the opposite way, and if you have very fine hair specifically, it might actually outperform the blunt bob. Let's get into it. Part 2. The fringe that adds volume without adding length. I want to admit something. For years I dismissed fringes entirely, convinced they'd make my thin hair look even thinner by drawing a horizontal line across my forehead. I was wrong, and the reason I was wrong is actually kind of fascinating. A curtain fringe, the kind that parts softly down the middle and sweeps back past the temples, doesn't add a horizontal weight line at all. It adds vertical movement right at the crown, which is exactly where thinning shows up first on most women over 50. Most of us lose density starting at the part line and the crown before anywhere else. So a fringe that lifts and frames right at that exact spot is solving the problem at its actual source, not just distracting from it somewhere else on the head. Here's the part that surprised even me. The fringe pieces themselves don't need to be thick to create this effect. What matters is where they're cut relative to your part, and how they're layered against the rest of your crown hair, so that the eye reads volume. At the one spot your eye naturally goes first when you look at someone's hairstyle, right at the hairline and part. The fix is a soft curtain fringe, cut long enough to sweep past the temples rather than sitting blunt across the forehead, with the pieces closest to the part left slightly shorter to create lift. Say this exactly to your stylist. I want a curtain fringe that parts down the middle, sweeps past my temples, with the center pieces cut slightly shorter than the outer pieces for lift at the crown. That last detail, shorter center pieces, is the one most stylists skip if you don't ask for it specifically, and it's the single detail that makes the difference between a fringe that flops flat and one that actually lifts. Colette, one of the women who tried this after watching an earlier video of mine, told me she'd avoided fringes for 20 years because a bad one in her 30s left her self-conscious for a decade. She was nervous walking into the salon. She said the moment the stylist blow-dried the fringe into place and handed her the mirror, she actually laughed out loud. Not from embarrassment, but because she hadn't seen that much movement at her hairline since she was in her 40s. That's the snapback result worth naming directly. A curtain fringe doesn't just frame your face, it visually resets where people's eyes land first when they look at you. And it lands on movement and softness instead of a flat, thinning part line. People stop registering thin hair and start registering soft face framing style, because the framing pulls focus before the density question even comes up. The one thing to watch for: ask your stylist to point cut the ends of the fringe rather than blunt cutting them straight across. Point cutting leaves the tips slightly irregular, which reads as soft, natural movement instead of a stiff, obviously cut line. This one small phrasing addition, point cut the ends not blunt, is worth writing down before your appointment. Before, a center part with visible scalp and no framing at the hairline. After, a soft curtain fringe with lift right at the crown, temples framed, and a part line that no longer reads as thin because there's finally something happening around it. It's a small cut with a disproportionately large visual payoff. There's one more cut coming up that does something neither of these first two touch at all. And it might matter most if your thinning shows up specifically at the back of your head, not the front. Part 3. The layered pixie built for crown density. Nobody warns you about this, so I will. Thinning at the back of the crown is actually more common after 50 than thinning at the front, but almost every video and article about thin hair only talks about the hairline. If your part looks fine from the front, but you catch a glimpse in a store mirror and see scalp at the back of your head, this part is specifically for you. Long hair simply cannot fix back of crown thinning, no matter how it's layered, because length always pulls weight downward and away from the crown, no matter what you do to it. The only way to build real, visible density at the crown is to remove length there entirely and let short layers stand up on their own. That's what a heavily layered pixie does, and it does it specifically at the crown in a way no longer cut can replicate. Short layers, cut to graduate from very short at the crown to slightly longer toward the nape, don't have the length or weight to fall flat. They physically can't lie down the way longer hair does, so they hold lift all day without you doing anything extra to maintain it. The exact phrasing for your stylist: I want a layered pixie, cut shortest at the crown and graduating longer toward the nape, with the layers point cut for texture, not blunt. The word graduating matters here specifically. It tells your stylist you want a gradual build in length rather than one uniform short length all over, which is what creates that lifted, dimensional look at the very spot where density usually goes first. Diane wrote to me after 18 years of the exact same shoulder length style. She said she'd never once considered a pixie because she associated short hair with giving up, which is a phrase I hear constantly, and which I want to push back on directly. She went through with it anyway, cautiously, and the message she sent me afterward said her hairstylist held up a mirror to the back of her head. Something that almost never happens in a normal appointment, because the stylist herself wanted Diane to see the crown lift from that angle. Here's the snapback moment worth sitting with. This isn't a style that hides thinning. It's a style that makes thinning at the crown structurally impossible to see, because there's no length left to lie flat, and expose the scalp underneath it. That's a completely different strategy than the first two cuts in this video. And it's the one most women wait far too long to try. One caution worth naming honestly. A pixie this short requires a trim roughly every 5 to 6 weeks to maintain the graduated shape, because as it grows out, the crown layers lose their lift first. If you're not able to commit to that schedule, ask your stylist about a slightly longer version, a textured crop, that holds the same crown lifting principle with a bit more room to grow between visits. Before, shoulder-length hair with a visibly flat, thin crown that no amount of teasing could fix for more than an hour. After, a layered pixie with permanent structural lift at exactly that spot, no styling tricks required. It's the difference between fighting your hair every morning and simply letting the cut do the work on its own. The next cut on this list takes a completely different approach, and it's the one I'd recommend if you're not ready to go this short, but you still want that same crown lift. Stick with me. Part 4. The shag that tricks the eye into seeing fullness. Here's a fact that surprised me when I first researched it. A shag haircut, the same style that was everywhere in the 1970s, is mechanically one of the smartest cuts ever designed for thin hair, and almost nobody over 50 realizes it's still an option because they associate it purely with a decade rather than with what it actually does structurally. A shag works through heavy, choppy layering distributed all over the head rather than concentrated in one area, which creates dozens of small pieces of hair moving independently instead of one solid mass moving together. When hair moves as one solid piece, thin sections are obvious because there's nothing breaking up the eye's read of the whole shape. When hair is broken into many separate, layered pieces, your eye can't isolate any single thin section because it's too busy following the movement of dozens of individual layers. This is genuinely the closest thing to an optical illusion in this entire list, and it's worth understanding why it works before you ask for it. Fullness visually has almost nothing to do with actual strand count, and almost everything to do with how much independent movement the eye can track. A shag maximizes that movement. The fix, a medium-length shag with heavy layering starting just below the chin, choppy ends throughout, and face framing pieces left slightly longer at the front. Tell your stylist exactly this. I want a shag with heavy layers starting below the chin, choppy point cut ends throughout, not just at the bottom, and longer face framing pieces at the front. The phrase, "not just at the bottom" matters, because a shag with layers only at the ends isn't a real shag. It needs that layering distributed through the mid-lengths too, or the volume multiplying effect doesn't happen. Rosalind, the same woman from part 1 who tried the blunt bob first, actually came back to me 8 months later saying she'd since switched to a shag for a change of pace, and she told me something I hadn't expected. Her hairstylist said it was the first time in years a client had asked for this cut by its correct technical description instead of just pointing at a photo and hoping. Knowing the language changes how seriously a stylist takes the request, and it changes what you actually walk out with. The snapback result here is specific. In photographs, a shag catches light differently at every layer, so even under flat lighting, the kind that usually flattens thin hair completely, the choppy layers still create visible shadow and highlight variation across the head. That's the real reason this cut photographs so well on older women specifically. It's doing work that flat, single-length hair simply cannot do under the same lighting. A quick word of caution. A shag needs some texture product to hold its choppy shape, otherwise the layers can settle too smoothly and lose the broken-up effect that makes it work. Ask your stylist which lightweight texturizing product they'd recommend for your specific hair type before you leave the appointment. Before, one flat, uniform length with no independent movement anywhere in the hair. After, dozens of choppy layers moving separately, catching light differently, and making thin sections impossible for the eye to isolate. It's the cut that relies on the least maintenance while doing the most visual work. Last on the list is the cut I get asked about more than any other, and it's the one that works even if you're not ready to change your length at all. Part 5, the root lift bob that needs no length change at all. I saved this one for last because it's the fix most women can use without changing a single inch of the length they already have, and I get more questions about this exact technique than about any specific haircut on this list. Here's the truth almost nobody explains clearly. Sometimes the problem isn't your cut at all. It's the angle your hair is being cut at relative to your head, specifically at the root. A cut that's precise everywhere except at the root can still leave you with flatness, because most stylists cut the length of a bob without paying separate attention to how the first inch, right at the scalp, is shaped and angled. The technique is called root lift graduation, and it's less about a dramatic new shape and more about how the stylist angles their shears at the very root of your existing bob or lob. Cut with an upward angle at the root instead of a straight across cut. The hair closest to your scalp is left with built-in texture that resists lying flat, even before you pick up a single styling tool. Say this in the chair word for word. Keep my length the same, but add root lift graduation. Cut the first inch at the root at an upward angle instead of straight across. Most stylists will need you to say at the root specifically, because add volume alone is too vague and usually gets interpreted as adding layers through the mid-lengths instead, which does something completely different. Marguerite, who you heard from back in part 1, actually told me this was the technique she used for years before ever trying the blunt bob, because she wasn't ready to commit to a shorter length, but desperately wanted the flatness at her crown to stop. She said her stylist showed her the root angle under a bright light before cutting, so she could actually see what upward angle meant instead of just trusting the phrase blindly, and she recommends every woman ask to see that same demonstration. The snapback result is subtle but real. Root lift graduation doesn't change how your hair looks lying flat. It changes how your hair looks the moment gravity starts pulling on it throughout the day. Instead of collapsing evenly against your scalp by early afternoon, the angled root fibers keep pushing hair away from the head, which means the volume you see fresh out of the salon lasts hours longer than it normally would. One important note: this technique works on nearly any length, which is exactly why I placed it last. It's the one adjustment you can request in addition to any of the 4 cuts already covered in this video, layered right on top of whichever one you choose. Before, the exact same length she'd worn for years, roots flat and collapsed against her scalp by midday. After, identical length, but roots angled and lifted, holding volume hours longer without a single new inch cut off. Sometimes the smallest technical change in the chair makes the biggest visible difference in the mirror. 5 cuts, 5 completely different mechanisms, and every single one of them built around one real principle. Thickness isn't about how much hair you have, it's about how intelligently it's cut. You now know exactly what to say in that chair, whether it's a blunt bob, a curtain fringe, a crown-focused pixie, a choppy shag, or root lift graduation layered onto the length you already love. You don't need thicker hair to look thicker. You need the right cut, and now you have 5 of them, with the exact words to ask for. Which one of these 5 are you most tempted to try first? Comment below and tell me, because I read every single one of them. Next week I'm breaking down the coloring techniques that make thinning hair disappear completely, so you won't want to miss it. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.